Hey guys, this video is part 2 of the story of the tiny car accident in Japan. Those of you who haven't seen part 1, you probably want to watch that first, or this isn't going to make any sense. There's a link to that video in the comment section underneath this video. That's the longer video. This one's going to be pretty short. There was two developments. In the story. Those of you who have already watched the other video, there's two developments in the story. One was totally expected and not surprising in the slightest, and the other one was not expected and a little bit surprising, pleasantly surprising. So the first one was, the not surprising one was, you'll remember in the last video that we were told by the lady who ran into our car that, that was interesting, wasn't it? They were told by the lady that, speaking of people running into cars, we were told by the lady that ran into our car that the insurance company would be calling and they were going to speak in English because I'd given her a business card that was an English-friendly Japan one, and she just thought that meant that it had to be in English, which was interesting. And so she said that the insurance company were going to call and they were going to ask questions in English. They were going to talk in English. Ask questions in English. And at the time, you remember on the last video, I was really skeptical about that. That seemed really unlikely because, you know, we deal with companies all the time. For the English-friendly directory, we're always trying to find English-friendly companies in Japan. And it's really difficult. It really is difficult to find genuinely English-friendly companies. Quite often, or not often, occasionally you'll find websites here that have a page in English, you know, maybe like an insurance company or something, and they have an English page. Oh, that's interesting. You click on the English page and it's just minimal information. You know, the main website itself will be pages and pages and pages of information in Japanese, and you click on the English page and it's just minimal information, and then you click on the contact us button and it's all in Japanese. And you know, which is fair enough. Again, like with all our videos, there's always someone who goes, oh, why are you complaining? It's Japan. Not complaining, just explaining what we see. This is what we see. And, you know, of course, in Japan, the language is Japanese, so that's what you get. But the point is, don't miss the point, you guys that get all defensive. The point is that English-friendly companies in Japan are really rare. And, you know, now and again we'll get one that looks okay on the internet and looks like, yeah, maybe these guys are English friendly, and we send them an email and usually don't get an answer. Quite often don't get an answer, or might not get an answer for a week because they're waiting for the one person who can speak English to come in and answer the email. But more often than not, we contact companies and say, because our question for the English friendly directory is always, can your company look after customers who can only speak English? And the sending them an email is a bit of a test of that to see what happens, and most of the time we don't get any answers at all, and that's the answer really. We don't get an answer, and that's the answer. The answer is no, they can't. So when she said the insurance company were going to call and speak in English, ask questions in English, I just really doubted it. I thought, no, that's not really likely at all. Not likely at all. The number of people here who can speak English well enough to do that, and a Japanese company, most of them don't have systems in place where they can communicate with anybody in another language other than Japanese, and they just wouldn't know where to start with something like that. The answer to that would be, oh, we've never done that before, which would mean that they never do it. So anyway, she insisted that they were going to call and ask questions in English. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Okay, sure. And so the phone rings a couple of days ago, and it's a Japanese voice saying, I'm from the ABC, and it wasn't really the ABC, but I'm from this insurance company, and I want to speak to you about your car accident. And it was all in Japanese, of course, and I said, can you speak English? And the person said, oh no, I'm sorry, I can't speak English. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Your customer said that you were going to call and ask questions in English. And oh no, sorry, no, we can't speak English. Right. So that's all fine. That's totally what we were expecting, you know. But it was just, you know, it was just totally what we expected. And this is we've talked about things like this before in Japan. No matter what you're told, you know. No matter what you're told, it's not necessarily going to be what happens. And being told we're going to get a phone call in English, knew it wasn't going to happen. So anyway, okay, and she said, oh, I'm sorry, and I said, that's okay, it's okay, we can talk in Japanese. So she said, oh, so your car was, you had an accident in your car on this date? And I said, yeah, I wasn't actually in the car, I was somewhere else. The car was parked, and yes, on that date, and was your car damaged? And you remember from the last video, just no damage at all. Just wanted it all to go away. So no, the car wasn't damaged, and oh, no damage at all, no damage at all. And were you injured? So I said, no, I was in a building. I was somewhere else. The car was parked. I wasn't in the car. So no. And so you weren't injured? No, I wasn't. There was a story in the Japanese press this week about people in conversations in Japan that don't mean anything, and that it's becoming more common. It was a Japanese psychiatrist who's been studying this and said that the conversations in Japan are getting more like that, where people have these big long conversations that really don't communicate much, which, you know, we've talked about this on videos before. It's funny when they have big studies in here by important people who do studies and find things that we've already identified years ago. You know, it's obvious. Big conversations in Japan that don't mean anything. Well, that's not news to anybody who lives here. We have them all the time. So it was one of those, really. You know, really the two questions she had was your car damaged and were you injured? And the answer to each was no, but the conversation went on much longer than it needed to. And then at the end, okay, thank you very much. So that wasn't surprising at all. There was nothing surprising in that phone call at all. Totally what we expected. However, what was surprising was that was the end of it. And some of you'll remember that the reason we made, oh, this is interesting, look at this development here. Some of you remember that the reason we made the first video was because we suspected that it was going to be an ongoing thing that was going to go on forever, because that's usually what happens with stuff like that here. And it could well raise its head again, but the reason we think it's over is recently where that lady's car was parked, the car that she damaged, it was gone, and there was another car there which looked to be like one of those replacement cars that the car repair shop gives you when they're repairing your car. So it appears that it's over. It does appear that it's over. So we're not surprised that they only spoke English and they only spoke Japanese. We're not surprised that the conversation went on way longer than it needed to. But we are surprised that seems to be the end of the faffing. That was an unexpected end to the faffing. We were totally convinced there was going to be more paperwork and possibly an interview from police and all sorts of stuff, a police report, and it just sort of stopped. So a pleasant surprise. So far, there is always the fear, of course, that we've spoken too soon and that this could raise its head again unexpectedly at some time in the future. It's quite possible. But in the meantime, there is one small thing too. Recently, went to visit my friend near where the car accident happened, and as I was walking back to my car, the lady who'd hit my car drove past, and because it's been a real struggle to be nice and polite and patient and stuff, as it always is, and she drove past waving and smiling like we were best friends. I was like, oh yes, hello. So strange, but anyway, there it was, the unexpected ending to the story. Maybe. So this might be, part 2 might be the part 2 and final part, or sometime in the future it might raise its head again and we might have to do a part 3, but it's looking like it might be over. Anyway, there it was. Speaking of unnecessary talking, there was much more talking in that video than was necessary as well. Sorry about that. More videos coming soon.